joined us for another one of our government summits. What Phil speaks to is everything that we've been talking about in enterprise content management in government in the Midwest. Phil began his career with Oakland County in 1988. He was appointed Deputy Oakland County Executive and is the CIO in January of 2005. He's a very vocal advocate of cloud and enterprise solutions. No problem, AJ, I'm sure, cloud. And cross-boundary resource sharing and interjurisdictional cooperation. He has overseen the development of unique government technology programs and created successful models that can be implemented by other governments interested in improving operations while containing costs. This is almost identical to the shared services model that we've been talking about here in Michigan for the last couple of years for our customers. Phil has traveled extensively to speak about e-government best practices and has authored several resources to help other organizations modernize IT within today's rapidly changing technology environment. He has promoted his philosophy of build it once, pay for it once, and everybody benefits to many other government agencies, including those within the U.S. and others as far off as Australia and Dubai. Very excited to have Phil back again. Phil Bertolini.
Good morning. How was everybody this morning? Can you hear me okay? So I don't have to yell? Like it would matter, right? Okay. So I'm very excited and honored to be here with all of you this morning, and I'm going to move around a little bit, so I'm going to drive your video guys nuts, Scott, so I apologize. Oh, but I did forget one thing. Everybody reach into your pocket and pull out $1, because I want my $1.50 back. Jess? Okay, that wasn't that funny. All right, so what I'm going to do is talk about some of the issues we have in governing in what we call the new reality. Our economy has taken a severe shift for all of us, and we've felt it in many different ways. So how do we go ahead now, and how do we change the way we do business? How do we re-engineer what we consider to be government and try to focus on new services that we could provide or different ways to provide services for people? Because this is what well, first I forgot to tell you, this is where Oakland County is, in case anyone forgets, but I went to a presentation where I got all the way through. I was about an hour in, and someone asked me how things were in Oakland, California. So I put this slide in every presentation out. But this is what everybody was talking about, and I think the gentleman from Highland talked about it as well, is that government is required to do more with less. But this is not the reality. This is the reality. What we're doing in government today is we're doing less with less. And the reason we're doing less with less is because we can't be all things to all people. They want us to be, but we can't. So what that means is we have to prioritize what we're able to provide and what we're not able to provide. And by the way, what's the priority of government? If you look at the state constitution, it's the health, safety, and welfare of the people. Pretty broad categories. Health, safety, and welfare. There's a lot there. And then the question always becomes, well, is IT really a discretionary spend or a necessary spend? How many people have run into that in their organization, whether you should have IT or not? Why don't we just hire a bunch of people to do it, right? Well, we are doing less with less. This is the reality of government today, and now what we have to figure out is how to do that efficiently. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to take today's talk, and I'm going to center it around leadership. So I'm going to use the traits of leaders, and then some of the things that we've been doing, and that we've seen in the region, and how we're accomplishing some of our goals and working through our mission. But here's what happens is this new reality requires strong leadership. And many of you have dealt with leadership issues in the past where you've brought forth a program, and everybody loves to do the press conference at the beginning. But when the program runs into problems, where did everybody go? Right? Where are our leaders? So we have to be strong and resilient in this new economy that we're talking about. So I have some leaders that I put up here, and the reason I put these leaders here is we had some leaders before, and then we have now. I always put my boss there. You see that? So if you ever see him, he's in the leader group. By the way, I try to pick leaders from different areas of our economy, but leadership is very similar today as it was before, but it's also very different. Our world is different. Information travels just that much faster today. Our response time on certain issues, and everybody involved in government knows, if you don't get right out there and get ahead of an issue, it can run you over. Okay? Well, leadership is the same, but yet it's also changed. The first aspect of leadership that I would like to talk about is vision, and some of the areas of vision that we've been encountering in Oakland County. First, in our economic development area, we knew that all of our eggs were in one basket at one time, and that's the automotive industry. Now, we love the automotive industry, but as the automotive industry peaked and valleyed, so did we. So what we started to do was diversify our economy. So back in early 2000s, our county executive, Albrecht Patterson, walked into his economic development people and said, okay, find me the top 10 sectors of the new economy and find me the top 10 companies for each sector. Go find them. So they found 100 companies. 60% of those companies were not in the United States of America. Very sobering. Very sobering. That means 60% of that new economy was not even here. So what we did is we started going around the globe and seeking out these new economies like nanotechnology, biotechnology, alternative energy, information technology, one of the fastest growing industries that we have. Life sciences, another, and I'll talk more about life sciences in a second. Our number one employer in Oakland County used to be General Motors. Our number one employer in Oakland County today is Beaumont Hospitals. So you're seeing the shift in this economy. So we went out and sought those companies out. We started going around the world and trying to get them to us. In other words, bring them into Oakland County so we could diversify that economy. Here's what we found. We actually have over almost $2 billion in new investment that has come in since we started the program. And we have, many different companies. It's over 100 that have relocated in Oakland to try to help us diversify our economy. Something else that you should all be thinking about too is these companies like to cluster. Everybody know what I mean by that? So we have a number of foreign-owned firms. We have more foreign-owned firms in Oakland County than anywhere in the state. Just Japanese companies alone, we have 270 Japanese-owned companies that have moved into Oakland County. Why? Because they find it very friendly to come and bring foreign investment into our area because we've made it that way. But this is the shift in our economy. You know, the old rust to tech, everybody heard that before? We're going to take the economy from rust to tech. It's happening out there. And what that's doing too, though, is it's changing the way we deliver services as a county. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But as we deliver those services, we have to take into account these are the people that are consuming our services as well. Medical. I talked a little bit about medical, and what we've been doing is we have this consortium now that we call Medical Main Street, where we've actually got all the hospitals in Oakland County, all the medical device companies, all the different related industries. They're all working together to rebrand our region as a destination for healthcare. Has anyone ever heard of medical tourism? You heard of it? You know, you can go to Costa Rica, get a surgery, and bring your whole family on vacation while you recover. Doesn't sound good to you either. I think I'm going to stay here and get my surgeries. But we're trying to get people to come in, and they come from all over to get their medical services here in Oakland County and in our region. And if you look down here, we have more clinical trials in Oakland County more than California, Florida, Texas, and New Jersey. So there's more medical trials just going on in our hospitals than there are in many different states. That's huge. That changes everything. And we have 4,300 life sciences and medical facilities. So what does that mean to all of us? It means jobs. It means services and taxes. I won't forget taxes. But it also means requirements that we have to be able to deal with these folks longer term. And we're going to have to enable these services through technologies. I wanted to talk real quickly about our airport. And the only reason I wanted to mention this is our first LEED certified building, where it's energy efficient. And we put in geothermal wells, we have solar panels, we even have a living wall, which is a vertical wall. Well, I guess all walls are vertical, but we grew plants on the wall, and it helps exchange oxygen in the air. for the facility, and it's watered by rainwater that comes in through a rainwater system that then waters this wall. Why is that cool? Because we realize that energy is a big issue for us. In our county, we saved over $600,000 last year on just how we purchase natural gas versus oil, heating oil, fuel oil. So we found ways to go ahead and do that. And what we're trying to do is try to bring down the cost of government. And one of the ways to do that is through efficient energy. All right, now technology. Because when you have vision, you have to go, where's next? And they were talking about the cloud that existed. I think the cloud started about 35, 40 years ago, or even before that. When was the first mainframe? Anyone tell me? What year? 1949. You sure about that? Okay. That's okay, though, because I love when people just, yeah, that's good, 1949. I said it was 1949 in June-ish. No, I'm just kidding. But that was the first cloud, wasn't it? It was a centralized computing platform that was allowed to be used in a distributed environment. So we had a mainframe in place for our law enforcement technologies almost 40 years ago, that we had dumb terminals that existed out in the policing agencies, and they were able to use that information. We also had assessment and tax systems that we developed in 1973-ish, 72-ish, that were being used by governments all over Oakland County through dumb terminals and phone lines. So the cloud technologies aren't, the ability to use centrally provided technologies in distributed environments is not new. What is new is the ability to deliver those more cost effectively and faster, with more ability to be mobile, and the ability to go ahead and use these types of technologies. And that's what we're talking about, and you're going to hear a lot about that today here with ImageSoft and Highland and the folks here, because that's really what they're about, right? It's about providing technologies in a cost-effective way that can be used by multiple entities in hopefully a very inexpensive way. But what we're trying to do is we also have a cloud initiative that we started in the county, because what we realized is we've been providing shared services to people for years. So why don't we just continue to do that, but maybe do it in a different way? So we started our cloud project in February of 2011. Took a bit to get everybody convinced that this was the right way to go, but what we created was our G2G cloud solutions. And so what we did first is we put our online payments systems as well as our web suite out in the cloud for anybody to consume. And I mean anybody. Any government that wants to consume them can consume them. And we made it very cost effective. And what we're doing right now is we're getting ready to put out an RFQ to bring in private partners. And I have a feeling that ImageSoft and others are going to be interested in that, because that's where they live. And we're going to consider them, and hopefully when you guys put forth a proposal, we'll talk about it. No problem. But what we're doing is in our website is g2gcloud.com, and what we're doing is we're providing those technologies out. Now, we know, though, that we need to have an ROI here. But we have the ability to work between governments that other companies don't have. That's why we're seeking out these public-private partnerships, because I can actually do this with interlocal government agreements. I don't have to sign standard contracts. I do this today. I have a number of customers that are on here. Our Access Oakland, which is our payment engine for Oakland County, we've been generating revenue, and we've been giving revenue back to the local communities for helping us support the data components. So this is something that we're good at. But now the question is, how can we take it to that next evolutionary step? And we believe this is an opportunity. Now, there's something that how many people are from counties here? Okay, cool. How many of you are NACO members? And if not, why not? And if not, why not? Well, what we're doing is, and this actually spawned from a project that a number of folks in this room helped us with the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. We created an application store for the counties in SEMCOG. And what we did is all of us took all of our assets and we put them into the application store, and then we're all sharing that information between each other. This project here will launch in July, and it'll be nationwide. So all the counties that are members of NACO are going to be able to get assets and be able to find contacts and assets from other counties around the nation. They'll be able to do that in July. Why is that important? Well, a lot of folks that were in the room that helped us here from Washington, I think from Monroe, correct? and others, what happened was we wanted to collaborate with each other, but we didn't know what each other had. First rule of collaboration, what do you have? What do I have? Can we make it work? Well, if I don't know what you have, you don't know what I have, we can't talk. So the SEMCOG project was just so we could find a way to talk. And we put all of our projects in there. And in my process at Oakland County, I require all of my people, before they bring a project forward, they have to go ahead and check that database first to see who else is doing it and make the contact with those people to find out if there's a potential for shared services. It's a new mindset, right? How can we share? We just can't go alone anymore. It's too costly, and we have to support it longer term. So what we're doing this on a nationwide basis, we have 36 major counties from around the country that have already agreed to be in the pilot. There's 3,000 or so counties nationwide. See how powerful that kind of information could be? And think about it. If you're looking for a project to do, and you have a need to fill, wouldn't it be nice to be able to put that need into a database and get back everybody who's done it already, or is doing it, or someone that's thinking about it, and be able to call them up and say, hey, I'd rather buy with you than buy alone? This is the mindset that has to change. We used to do everything alone because we had the resources and we could do it. Many of the other major counties used to do, or still do everything. Well, we all do. We have our own projects. But there's a number of small to medium-sized governments that just cannot use technologies. Why? They can't afford the capital expense, and they can't afford the ongoing operating expense. So smaller governments are struggling to use bigger technologies. This kind of effort can change that. All right? And you all wouldn't be here today if you weren't looking for a different way to do business. Because it would be easy to do what we do today. We could push the same piece of paper across the same desk as long as we have enough people to do it. But that world shifted on us. So this project will launch in July, and we're pretty excited about it. So understand, the reason I wanted to show you economic development initiatives and technology initiatives, and I'll talk more about some of these in different areas, is because they're all inexplicably tied together. When a company comes to look at where they're going to locate, where they're going to build a building, where they're going to create a plant, where they're going to do anything, well, some of the first things they look at is, well, one, what's your taxes? Okay, how easily is it going to be for me to acquire property, or what I need to do is to acquire a building? And by the way, how progressive is this place that I'm going to? Is there a quality of life? Is there the arts? And people are talking about the DIA and everything else. I mean, these are all things that companies look at. They want to know, are there people going to have a place to live? Are they going to be able to get that job? And by the way, do we have a progressive government that's going to work with us as a partner versus someone that's just going to be in our way? Okay? So when you think about the ability to share, we have to stop thinking about our little fiefdoms. Because if we don't stop thinking that way, we will never be able to evolve and bring in the technologies we need to bring in to satisfy our needs longer term. All right, the next trait I was going to look at is decisive. There's something about leaders that it's okay to think and have vision. It's another to implement. And when you implement, you have to make decisions. And now all the decisions we make are very popular. Did everybody agree with that? There's always somebody mad at us, especially the IT folks, right? I turned on my computer, my email didn't work. That 4-year-old bad. We know how that feels. But we also know that there's great reward in making decisions. Are all decisions correct and accurate and perfect? No. But if you never make a decision, you never get anything done. So what I want to talk about is financial leadership here. And this is something that we're very in tune with in Oakland County. Right now, we have a balanced budget all the way through 2015. We have a recommended balanced budget. We do 3-year budgeting, a recommended balanced budget that'll be in front of our Board of Commissioners this July that'll balance us through 2015. And that's without any further reductions in staff, pay, or health care benefits. Because we've been doing this for years. First, debt. You hear about debt all over the region and all over the state, that people have legacy costs. Do they have pensions? Do they have health care costs? And we heard about that with the auto industry, didn't we? Wasn't the legacy cost one of the biggest issues they had to deal with going forward to survive? Our debt ratio, I think it was some crazy number, like we could borrow $5 billion. based on our debt limit. Well, that would be pretty cool, but we wouldn't want to have to pay it back. But we could borrow $5 billion. I think our debt ratio right now is we're at about 0.5% of our debt ratio is what we actually have debt for. And we've done that through the ability to manage some of our costs. One, we've taken our healthcare costs. We don't have retiree healthcare for new employees anymore since 2006. We give them healthcare savings accounts. Since 1995, we no longer allow defined benefit retirement plans. We have a defined contribution plan. Then what we did is we funded our pension plan, locked it down, put it aside, and then we went out and borrowed with trust certificates and paid off our retiree health care. We took a 30-year debt load at $62 million a year to pay off our health care. It's now a 20-year debt load at $42 million a year. We saved over $100 million for the taxpayers by thinking about it early. Okay? And why I wanted to share that with you, it's not to brag. It's that there are ways to manage our costs in government, but it takes tough decisions that have to be made, and not everybody's going to like it when you have to make them. Okay, we also I've talked about multi-year budget, and then also the issue of the legacy cost. This was huge because one of the other aspects that people look at and companies look at when they want to do business in your county is how strong is the government entity, and am I going to have to worry about them raising taxes on me someday? And so we work very hard to manage our finances. Back to technology. So what we've also done is, how many people are grappling with water infrastructure, roads, all that good stuff? You having fun with that? All that stuff we're going to have to replace someday? Well, what we were worried about was some of our assets in the county was that we couldn't predict when they were going to fail. Has anyone ever had a water main break in their community? What happens when you have a water main break? Everything goes wrong, doesn't it? The road falls, the water main breaks, so you got to replace the road, you got to replace the water main. And by the way, all the businesses that are associated with that area, what happens to them? They go down, right? So now you have an economic impact. So what we did was we created a collaborative asset management system where we have all our partners from the Road Commission, Water Resources Commission, our Parks and Rec, we have our facilities management, our local municipalities, and what we're doing is we're creating an infrastructure management program that will allow us, if something's wrong over one part of our county and we know when that valve was installed or what happened there, we can find all the other valves that were installed about the same time and start doing predictive maintenance on them instead of reactive maintenance. This is a collaborative effort that started really internally with our Water Resources Commission and some of our internal folks, but expanded out to our local municipalities and our Road Commission and Parks and Rec. And now we have others that are saying, hey, let us join up too, because if you already have the model in place, why do I have to reinvent the wheel? So collaboration is the way it has to happen, okay, longer term. All right, another leadership trait that's difficult for some, patience. How many in the room have the ultimate patience? See, I believe my wife has the ultimate patience. I have 2 boys. She calls me her oldest boy because I'm usually the troublemaker. I'm the Nerf war guy. I'm the one that causes all the problems. So she has really good patience, but some leaders don't have patience, do they? So someone says, okay, let's do this wonderful program, and then, by the way, it's going to take 5 years for it to come to fruition, but they're not willing to wait the 5 years for the result. The shared services are something that we have to be very careful about how long we think it's going to take till we get some sort of performance out of it. This is not something that changes overnight. We're not tomorrow going to talk about how great collaborators we are and everything's going to be perfect tomorrow. That's not how it works. So you have to have patience. Let me give you an example of patience. Back in 2000, 1999-2000, our boss, Brooks Patterson, was saying, hey, we got a problem with our region as far as how we're branded as a region. They think we're industrial. That's all we are. So we need to change that. So he went out to try to change it. He created a consortium called Automation Alley, which now has over 1,000 companies. And it's in several different counties here in southeast Michigan. And what it does is it rebrands our region away from the industrial side of things to more of the knowledge-based economy. Well, what was interesting about this is it started with 43 companies inside Oakland County in 2000 and has grown to over 1,000. Think about it. That's almost 12 years ago this started. 12 years. You got to be pretty patient. The emerging sectors program I talked about, it could take 20 years to alter our economy. But you have to be willing to make that decision and start it, him knowing that he's not going to be county executive 20 years from now. Well, no, he might be. But, you know, he knows that it's going to take a long time. Medical Main Street is going to take years to change that whole environment. But you got to be willing to make that decision. But then you have to be patient and let the project grow. See, some of the problems we have in government is we change administrations or we change our executive sponsorship, and what happens is then there's no patience anymore sometimes. We have to work through that. And the way to work through that is to collaborate with each other. If you're working across agencies and cross-boundary on technology initiatives, you have a more likelihood of having that be sustained. Why? Because it's not just you. It might be you and 5 others. So how can we collaborate? Cloud computing. Everybody says, you know, cloud computing, it's great they put a name on it. It's been around a long time. But to really make it work, and to work with companies like ImageSoft and Highland to make that work, that doesn't happen overnight either. Does that make sense to everybody? So you got to be patient, and what you have to do is you have to make sure you get everybody on board to be patient with you as well. And one way to do that is to educate them and constantly re-educate them on the benefits and what you're working on and why you're doing it. And by the way, don't be afraid to bring your partners to the table to help you educate. I talked about CAMs a second ago. I talked about how we have local units of government that are involved. We bring them to the table if we have to. So I have 25 commissioners, 15 Republican, 10 Democrats. Makes interesting times. But if I need to get something done in the county that impacts the entire county, if I bring those local units of government, my partners, to the table with me, it's a much easier transition into getting the project done. Why? They represent those people. Does that make sense? So I know that a lot of you are from different disciplines, some courts. I see Jennifer over there. Hi, Jennifer. From different courts and so on. You know what, though? There's no reason why you can't work with multiple courts to get things done. There's no reason why you can't. And wouldn't it be better to have 3 courts sitting at the table versus 1? Trying to ask for some major decision to be made or a major program to be started? So just think about it that way.